Hello, my friends. Sachin here. Today we have a very special guest who is going to be serving you in the most powerful way, which is to leverage technology that's available to you in a new way and in a way that makes it easier for you to reach the people that you want to reach, to connect with the people that are looking for you, and to create efficiencies in your business. So, our guest today is Amy Yamada. And I always like to share stories about how I meet people because I have some pretty amazing friends. Some of you might know my friend Jennifer Hootie, and I hadn't heard from Jennifer in a while. And I get an email from her, or text message rather, from her. And she says, "You have to meet my friend Amy." And so that's where the introduction started. And so, as always, before I bring anyone to our stage, I like to experience the magic that they have to offer. And I like to use it myself so that I know that this is going to be of value to you. So, Amy took me through a really, really powerful exercise where what she allowed me to do is enter in three simple statements. And she's going to share this with you today. And from those three simple statements, uh, her process and her system generated a 30-page report about my business and how to present my business, how to market my business, how to put it out there into the world, how to message for it. And truth be told, I hired Jennifer Hootie many years ago, and it was a very time consuming process. Not that it wasn't worth it, but it took months to put something like this together. And it was not cheap either. I won't tell you how much I paid, but I will say that we're orders of magnitude um, uh, advanced from when I went through a very similar process with the way technology is operating, and orders of magnitude more affordable. So that's the beauty of the world we live in. And what's really cool about Amy is that she's just like you. She cares about health. She cares about efficiency. She cares about building a business. She cares about impact. And so I'm just really excited for what she's going to share with you today. I'll be co-piloting with her, so I'll be looking at questions that come in. We also have another co-pilot, Ken Droz, who you'll see in the chat as well. So we're going to be taking you on a magical journey of how to use AI to attract your ideal clients. And I really think you're in for quite the treat. So I was blown away when I went through this process, and I've seen a lot of things. So it does take a bit to impress me, and I was very impressed, and I know you will be as well. So if you're looking to become better at marketing, if you're looking to improve efficiencies in your business, if you want to, have a step up in how to articulate what you do to your communities, then this is going to be the perfect training for you. And if you like technology, but you're not exactly sure how to leverage it because maybe it scares you, then this will also be a great opportunity for you because there's so much available to us at our fingertips. You just have to know where to go, who to ask, where to get the support, and then also where to plug that information in. And so, without further ado, Amy, thank you for joining us today. And the way we clap in our community, for some of you who might be new to our community, the way we clap is we do this. So let's give Amy a warm welcome, and let's give Ken a warm welcome, and welcome them to our community. And I'll let you take it away, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And even our previous conversations, Sachin, just hearing about your community and what everyone's up to. I know Ken and I were both really excited to kind of think about how we approach AI, how we approach connecting with the ideal client. So we've been so looking forward to today. So thank you for having me, for having us. We're gonna have some fun today. And just welcome also to everyone here. I always love connecting with new people. It's my passion. So we're gonna dive in. And one thing that I always like to do when I get to connect with an amazing community is to just warm things up by getting to know you a little bit. So I'd love for you, if you're in a place where you can type in the chat, I'd love to know what kind of business you have. I know this group is a group that is really about health and wellness, health practitioners, health coaches. So if you could just put in the Zoom chat what specific type of business you have so that Ken and I can see who's in the Zoom room today to get to know you better. That's always helpful for us to see. I know a couple of people are still hopping into the group. So go ahead and just take a moment and go in the Zoom chat and type in your specific type of business. Okay, thank you so much. Great. And then a couple more questions that I have for you. And just know that I've seen you post in the chat. Thank you. And I always save the chat and read through it later. So even if I don't see it right away, I always love to see who I'm getting to connect with whenever I get to be in a room like this. Okay, so thank you for posting those in there. This is amazing. So then my next question for you is just curious, are you using AI? You can say, not at all, a little bit, obsessed with it, so just put yes, no, a little, it keeps me up at night because I'm going down deep rabbit holes. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a range of yes, no, a little, not much, all good. Okay, great. Kevin says, love experimenting, but not implementing. Okay, yeah, great. So we've got a nice range here. For those of you who are using it a little bit or a lot, can you just share what is the primary way in which you're using it? Just a short answer. Are you using it to create content or copy, or to brainstorm ideas, or to create SOPs, or what? So if you just put what are you using it for primarily, that would also be helpful. Okay, great. Yeah. It's always fun to see. Yep, brainstorming, market research. Awesome. Okay, great. Okay, so something that we've been really passionate about is, I think back to when I was initially introduced to ChatGPT in late 2022, and I remember Ken, my partner in life and in business, he's like, Amy, you got to check this thing out. And I said, what is it? And he's like, it's ChatGPT. It's amazing. What it can do is incredible. And my initial thought was, oh, great, another thing, another tech thing I need to learn, another platform I need to bring into my business. But he's like, no, this is different. You got to check it out. And so he simply prompted to write some email copy. And of course, it just immediately created this copy. And I thought, what is this thing? This is amazing. And so we started to experiment with that pretty early on. And the only thing that I struggled with was I'm all about authentic marketing, authentic communication, how to deeply connect with my clients, my audience. And so I remember saying to him, I really am impressed by this thing. However, if it doesn't sound like my authentic voice, and if it doesn't speak to my ideal client, then I don't know how I'm going to use it for copywriting and content. So to make a long story short, we started to really experiment with how can we leverage AI? How can we train it both on my authentic voice? How can we also train it on who my ideal client is? Or could we maybe perhaps tap into the intelligence part of AI to even learn more about my ideal client? And what we've discovered over the last, almost going on 2 years now, has been so insightful, and something that and I'll have Ken chime in here in just a little bit, but something we've been really speaking into lately is that right now we are in somewhat of a second wave of AI. And what I mean by second wave is that we've gone through the first wave of just having AI become so mainstream, and those of us who dove in somewhat early, we started to really experiment with it and go through the highs and lows of kind of trying to crack the code. And so whether you jumped into it early or not, just know that it still is early enough. And it's kind of sweet if you're jumping in now during the second wave, because it still is early enough. And at the same time, you don't have to do all the things that a lot of us tested and tried and built out these AI tools that very quickly became irrelevant. So Ken, thank you for also joining us today. I kind of grabbed Ken. I was like, hey, Ken's my behind the scenes AI ninja. And so we can speak into the second wave and then dive into how you can really leverage AI in your business in the most simplified way.
Yeah, something that we've been hearing from a lot of people that maybe didn't pick up on the AI wave right when it hit in November 22, is they're like, geez, I don't feel like I'm doing enough with it. Like, I feel like I'm really far behind now. And it's like, you're not behind. I mean, that first year was rough. Every time you thought you got this thing figured out, there was a new, best, shiny tool, and suddenly everything that you spent all this time learning became not more difficult, it actually became easier. And it's like, I spent weeks learning how to do that, and now you've just rolled out a tool that completely gets rid of the whole advantage it gave me, and now everybody has this advantage. And so every time AI gets up to like level 10, it doesn't go to level 11, it actually drops down to level 1 again. And it's like, we're all starting over again. Like, yep, every one of us is starting over in the same place, and it doesn't really matter where you came from. So there's a lot of tools that are coming out now that are giving us the opportunity to do things that we weren't able to do when it first began, and they're really simple. So we're going to show you how to do some of those.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to share the really the two main questions that we would love for you to be thinking about your answers to in order to leverage AI and to gain insights into who your ideal client really is and how to connect with them. It also can help with messaging. We're also going to do some demos of some AI tools, and we're going to keep it really simple. I really believe in simplifying AI. I know that's kind of the theme of today's training. And we're also going to talk about how you can leverage AI more in your business. I'm not sure if you've heard about custom GPTs. Some of you who said that you've been in AI for a bit and you're obsessed with it. Maybe you've been learning about or implementing building your own custom GPTs. That's like building your own AI tools. So we're going to just kind of walk you through some of these different segments today, have some fun with it, make it interactive. And our hope for today is that you walk away feeling a little bit more inspired to leverage the intelligence side of AI to see how you can leverage it in your, like optimize it in your business, and to also use it not just to task it, saying like, do this thing for me, write this copy for me, but to tap into the intelligence of it so that the way in which you're using AI is elevated and that you're really something that we really geek out on is leveraging it to gain these insights so that as you're improving your inputs, you're getting better outputs. Cool. Okay, so let's dive in. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to share the two main questions that we'd love for you to answer. So I like to have a done with you experience. So if you're in a place where you can even type in the chat and also save it yourself to think about these two questions. The first question that I would love to ask you is, what is your purpose? Meaning, why do you do what you do in relation to your business? So if you just want to take a moment and if you could put in the chat just so we can see what's coming through. So what is your purpose? Why do you do what you do? Go ahead and do that so we can see what your answer is, okay? So I'll also give an example. Sometimes when I think about this, I sometimes have like a few different ways that I answer this question. But one of the reasons why I do what I do is I'm passionate about authenticity and authentic communication and having the ability to really deeply connect with one another as human beings. So I sometimes play with my answers to this, but I know on a deeper level, the reason why I do what I do connects with authenticity and deep human connection. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing some of your answers here. Yeah.
Something that we discovered was that when we're trying to figure out who the people we serve are, there's two important elements that we're trying to bring together. There's who are we, and then what do we want for them? So when we talk about purpose, we're talking about what is it that's my come from? What do I care about? What are my values? What do I stand for? How come I decided to go down this specific choice as my business, as my profession, as my passion?
Yeah, so I'm even reading through a couple of these. Like I see Joe here that says to help others create health so they can live the life that works best for them. Very cool. Love that. Okay, so that's the first question. Is all around your purpose and your why. The second question is, what is your desired transformation or outcome for your ideal client? I'll repeat that once more. What is your desired transformation or outcome for your ideal client? So if you could take a moment and answer that in the Zoom chat as well.
And the difference is, an outcome might be I have stronger knees, but a transformation would be I can walk upstairs, right? Like, what is it that what's going to change about their life after having worked with you? And an outcome is fine. A business coach might say, I want my clients to make $10,000 a month, but you actually want to give them freedom. There's some benefit to them that after they've worked with you, they're like, thank you so much. Not for $10,000 a month, but for making my life better. And that's what we want to lean into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Ken, for sharing those specifics. Something I was having a conversation earlier today with a colleague, and it's inspiring me to share this about like an internal, there's like the external outcome, and then there's like an internal outcome in a way, right? There's the large logical outcome, then there's the emotional outcome. So these are some things to think about. Great. Yeah, this is really good. Sybil says, I want midlife women to feel like the best years of their lives are ahead of them, not necessarily behind them. That's powerful.
I like that.
Great. So the reason, again, why we're having you answer these particular questions is that these are questions I've been asking my clients for many years. And as we started to experiment with AI and experiment with messaging, even with AI, being able to answer these two questions already can help with how we leverage AI, how we communicate with it, and even just how we communicate in general. I mean, I find that even when I lead workshops and presentations, I think it's powerful when we as speakers, as presenters, say things like, "The reason why I do what I do is," right? And my wish for you is, you know, if you're thinking about your ideal client, my wish for you is this, that you are able to see that your best years are ahead of you versus behind you. I think even just being able to answer these questions is really powerful.
So something that we discovered when we started studying how how this product was able to come up with such accurate insights about our ideal clients is that it actually looks at the inverse of what you say. Because if your goal is to give somebody stronger knees or to have it so they can walk upstairs, then your ideal client is somebody who can't walk upstairs, right? It's actually the opposite of that. That's where the gap is that you need to close, and closing that gap is what gives them satisfaction. If you have something that you believe in strongly, like I believe that, you know, families are super important, it's probably a signal that you haven't always had a strong family, that there's something in you that taught you that this is really important, because when you don't have it, you know, that satisfaction has come up for you in your life. So it actually starts to look at the opposite of this, to start to weave together these insights that if somebody, if you're going to help somebody have stronger knees, that means they lack mobility. That means they feel pain, that there's all these other things that are associated with it. And when we learn those, we can start to cascade from those deeper insights about what is important to them.
Yeah. Okay. So something that can also help with answering these questions is actually a custom GPT that Ken built that we're going to just go ahead and share with you. So I'm gonna grab this and put it in the chat in just a moment, but want to give you a little bit of context to this. So when we started to ask these questions, which are also the same questions that are in the intake form that Sachin was referencing, that can leverage an AI tool to give you even deeper insights. We noticed that some people were saying, well, I'm not sure exactly how to answer these questions. Or, when we say, what is your purpose? It's like saying, what is the meaning of life? Right. And so we wanted to make it easier for people to be able to even answer these questions. And so we have a custom GPT. I'm going to pop the link to it in the chat so you can just get access to it. That essentially what you can do is simply, when I put it in here, you can click on it to open it up. You do need to be logged into ChatGPT. And my understanding is you can even use this as if you just have the free version of ChatGPT. And then once you open it up, then you'll just need to put in your name, and then you can put in either a bio about you, or if you have an About Me page on your website and you just copy and paste whatever information is on that About Me page. We had somebody else today, another client, who put in her company's name and the tagline. So essentially how this GPT works it's called your Purpose and Transformation GPT, is it will search the internet for information on you or your company, and then it will reflect back to you your purpose, your desired transformation for your ideal client, and your unique value proposition. So it's a done for you experience. Got it? I'll grab the link right now. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, it's helpful if you have a bio or an about me to try it with that first. I mean, you can put it in as a document. It'll take files, just to make sure that there's no noise from other people that might have similar names or a different chapter of your life that still has some rogue pieces on the internet. So if you have a document that describes your business, your website, your bio, you might want to start with that, see how that works out. But like for me, my name is unique enough that when I put my name in and my city, it will go and find interviews I've done and other places that I've left my fingerprints around the internet. And it does a really good job of actually finding what my purpose and my transformation are, just from conversations that there's transcriptions of.
Right. And Ken, my understanding is that it doesn't go into like our social media platforms, correct? Because of the logins.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they would have to be logged into those separate platforms. So it's going to take basically a really broad Google search without logging in and actually getting into your social media. So if your main website is Facebook, it's not going to be able to crack into that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm popping this link in the chat. So go ahead and take a moment if you're in a place to do this. Click on the link. So let's do this together. And then go ahead and put in your name. And like I said, if you can take a moment and find a bio or copy and paste from your About Me page, or if you know that you have a good online presence outside of social media, then you could put your name and the city in which you live, or a description. Like if I put in Amy Yamada business coach, it'll find the correct Amy Yamada and pull that information. But it's really dependent upon what your online presence is. So go ahead and do that. And we'll just give you a moment to do that. And then go ahead and press enter and see what it comes back with. Okay.
And if you let it search the internet, it'll show you which sites it found that it's pulling information from. So that the internet search, if you don't like the sites it has, you might see like, oh, this isn't Amy Yamada, the business coach. This is Amy Yamada, the smut writer, because there's one of those out there. So you can see if the answers are coming back funny, where that noise is coming from, and ask it to not use that.
Yeah, I see Sachin put wow. So Sachin, are you doing it as well then? Yeah. Do you mind can we pull you up here and here I'll spotlight. Do you mind sharing your screen so we can see what you put in and what you got back?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a big smile on my face because anyone who's a coaching client of mine should have their bio like ready and handy to go to just plug in there. So give me 1 second. Let me share my screen here.
Yeah.
It's also really nice feedback if if you put your bio in and you're like, this doesn't sound like me. Like, are you sure? It got it from somewhere.
Totally. Yep. Okay, so can you scroll up to show us what you put in? Okay, so this is your bio.
Yep.
Okay, great. So sounds like your community is pretty on point with bios. And then now when you read through purpose, desired transformation, and unique value proposition, do you see it as accurate, or how accurate is it?
Yeah, it's it's accurate. Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Now, often when we see the output, it also shares how many sites it reviewed.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that on this one. Do you think
that's because he gave it his bio as a document, so it wasn't triggered to search the internet. If he had asked, if he just put in his name and what his title is or what his city is, then it would have to go look for him. But because he brought the information to ChatGPT, it kept it within the information that he provided, which is actually the best place to start, so that you don't have to worry about getting that noise.
Okay.
So
do you want to test it? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question, clarifying question. So I was about to type in my website and press enter. If I wanted it to include that information, do I just get one shot at this, or can I reprompt it again?
You can take as many shots as you want. If you want to put the website in there, that's helpful. But I would also put your name in and say, okay, I want to know more about Sachin Patel. And then if there's a title that you think it'll be able to identify you by, that'll help too. So sometimes it'll get you about 4 sites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can see what sites did it pull from.
Okay.
So I know one time I did this, it even pulled from podcast interviews where I've been interviewed. Mm-hmm. So this is also a way to get a reflection back from what is it finding about you and defining as your purpose and desired transformation and unique value proposition. It's helpful to get that as feedback to see like, what is my online presence saying about me, right?
Yeah, it's like a social score.
That's right.
Yeah, and what's interesting is because we said, I want to know more about, we may have overridden the internal rules here that say that we want it to give us those 3 outputs. So if you had just put your name in, Sachin Patel, it probably would, Sachin Patel with functional medicine practitioner, that alone would probably break it down into those three categories, unless it's now, let's see if it does it yet. Okay. Yeah.
That means it'll do the overview and then it should, let's see, scroll down.
It's going different because we kind of took it off course. If we start with that, it'll break it down into those three things.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, it's still finding good information on you. And so the purpose and transformation are the main things we want. I was really impressed that it could find the unique value proposition. So I included that in this particular tool, but it's more information that we need to learn your ideal client, actually.
This is awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Fun, huh? Okay, and I just want to check in. If you want to stop the screen share, just want to check in and see, for those of you who are playing along at home, I'm just seeing if I missed anything, chat. Okay, for those of you playing along at home, okay, I'm starting to see like what your experience of that was. Was it accurate? Was it on point? I also see Bruce has his hand up. Bruce, do you want to unmute if you have a question or a share? Maybe not. Okay.
Sorry, it was a mistake. Although I'm just actually still finding my password for ChatGPT. Is there an easier? Is that necessary to get into?
Depends on how you signed up. If you signed up with your email, you'll need a password. I usually just log in with Google. So if I just click Google, it pops me right in.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. All right. Okay. So I'm seeing some answers in here. Love this. Amazing. Pretty cool. Love it. Accurate. Pretty on point. Awesome. Okay. Great. Good to see. Okay. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a brief demo of the Ideal Client Handbook tool that Sachin was mentioning earlier on. And the reason why we developed this, it really kind of happened organically over time, as I mentioned earlier. Initially, we were so focused on the writing style, like making sure that when we were creating content or copy, I wanted it to be in my voice, right? So we really focused on the messaging and how I communicate to create that. And then we realized, well, wait a minute, what about the ideal client? How can we gain insights on the ideal client? How can we make sure that anything that we create, whether it's messaging, copy creation, content creation, landing pages, all the things that we create for our ideal client, let's make sure that it's really dedicated and speaking to the ideal client. And so as we start to experiment with AI, we initially were focusing on some prompting here and there. And we realized, wow, if we can really help both in my own business and others to leverage AI to give us insights, a deep qualitative analysis on who we are really meant to serve as a reflection to the questions you just answered, then we will be able to really create an AI input that is going to work better than if we're simply describing our ideal clients very briefly. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what that looks like. And so let me just pull this up. I'll do a little screen share here. Okay. Oops, I have too many things open. Give me a second here.
And as I mentioned earlier, what we were really surprised to learn when we were developing this is kind of working backward from, I don't understand how you as an AI tool were able to discover this much really like personal information. And it was these gaps that it found, that the way people are satisfied is based on their aspirational state versus their existing state, and having to close those gaps, that all satisfaction comes down to, do we have gaps to close? And so learning where they're at, where they want to go, and figuring out how to close those gaps tells us more about their pain points and the validation they seek and all these other things that we're going to get into.
Mm-hmm. So this is where we have our ideal client intake form. So we put name and email, and then you'll recognize the questions, which is what you just answered, or you even use the GPT to answer for you, a little cheat code there. So this is just a sample. So I inserted my answers here. So sharing about my purpose, why I do what I do, what is my desired outcome or transformation for my ideal client, and then describing my business type. Okay. And this is a little bit of a longer answer. I've generated several different reports, so it doesn't have to be this long. Even if you had just 2 or 3 sentences to answer each of these questions would suffice. And then that's it. And then you press the submit button. Now, something that's been kind of fun and funny for me is that as I've shared this with more clients and colleagues and friends, even friends of mine have said to me, Amy, I have to admit to you, I was a little skeptical about this. I was a little skeptical about this because there's only these three questions that I'm answering. And I just, how is AI going to give me such deep insights? And that's where I have said to them, hey, I was skeptical from the beginning too with AI. I thought, gosh, when I first started using it, I wasn't gaining insights or I wasn't getting the copy outputs or content creation that I wanted to create from it until we spent months like really experimenting with this and then leveraging this tool. So once anyone who does this presses submit, then within about 10 to 15 minutes, you receive your Ideal Client Handbook. It goes into a production queue behind the scenes. Then it goes through our complex AI-based analysis and sequence, and the answers build upon each other. And so it's it's simple on the front end here. It's complex on the back end. And then I'll show you a sample of what it looks like when you receive your Ideal Client Handbook. So initially, it'll reflect back, similar to the GPT that we just shared with you. It'll reflect back your purpose, your desired transformation. So I'll just kind of polish it up for you and reflect it back to you. Desirable transformation for your ideal client. Then it will create a mission statement for you and your business. So this is what Sachin was talking about at the beginning. When he did this, it was like, oh my gosh, this totally reflects what my mission is and my business. And then from there, it'll give you a nice ideal client profile. So something that Ken and I are really passionate about is when you answer those initial questions, instead of the questions of who is your ideal client, like you're supposed to know immediately, or for those of you who've been in business for a while, if you're refining or redefining who your ideal client is, it's really powerful when they are a reflection of your purpose and your desired transformation for them. Does that make sense? So when we can really speak into, this is why I do what I do, this is my wish for them, then the way that AI works, I like to just say it's the intelligence of it. The way intelligence works is that it's processing all this information about you to reflect back to you your mission statement, to reflect back to you who are you really meant to serve and why. So it'll give you this ideal client profile.
The reason that we start out with the purpose and transformation at the top is as you're looking at this, if it doesn't line up, we want you to have access to look back like, what did I say that gives the impression that that's important to me? And so instead of like losing it on your submission form, we want to have your inputs at the top so you can go back and say like, did I identify myself this way? So this is going to be almost parroting what you say, which is kind of the intention of it. And then everything else is cascading from that information as we go.
That's right. So it gives an overview. It also shares what they say in their own words. I know Ken has heard me say this many times. My favorite parts of this entire Ideal Client Handbook are anything that's in quotes, because this is really getting into the head and the heart of the ideal client and hearing like, what is it that they are thinking about, or what are they saying? And what does this reveal about them? So as Sachin was saying earlier, in the past, we would invest, thousands upon thousands of dollars in a marketing agency to do market research, or we'd spend our own time, right, interviewing multiple people that represent our ideal client to hear what they have to say, interview them, look for those common threads amongst them to really understand what is it that they're thinking, what are they saying, what is it revealing about them on a deeper level, not just on the surface level, right? There's the external problems, and then there's the internal problems. Like, what's the logical side of it? What is the heart and emotional side of it? So this is where this handbook will give you these insights. And then it goes into their gaps. As Ken mentioned earlier, all client satisfaction is about filling gaps, right? For us as humans, the way we are satisfied, if we're here and we want to be here, right, then our satisfaction will happen when this gap is filled. So knowing what our client's current state is, and their aspirational state in relation to your purpose and your desired transformation for them is powerful. And even for those of you who are very seasoned in your business and you've done a lot of marketing and messaging and you're successful, one thing that I have been really grateful for with intelligence is being able to see my own messaging gaps in this Ideal Client Handbook. And my background is in messaging, but I just check my ego at the door because I'm like, oh man, this is so cool to be able to see what are the gaps in my messaging that I'm not speaking into. What are those fears and frustrations of my ideal client? Where are they now? Where do they want to go? So this really, this informs my improved messaging, my improved marketing, my improved sales conversations, or even how I articulate the value of what it is that I offer. So even this one section can give you some really powerful insights to their gaps and what's on their mind, what's on their heart.
So just like we started off with the purpose and the transformation, here we've got the aspirational and current state. And then these are the gaps that that AI is able to start to thread together from where they're at and where they want to go. So we look at these, and if you're able to answer these problems for your clients, every single one of them is going to make your clients happy.
Mm-hmm. So for example, as I started to help more industry leaders when it comes to AI, something that I heard all the time was, even from industry leaders, like, I'm feeling behind in AI, or I feel like I should be further ahead or understand more about how it works, and I'm afraid I'm going to be left behind. And so some of this can be very, very validating as well. So as you have more and more conversations with your potential or current clients, you may notice that there's a mirror in these insights. So I won't go through the whole thing. It's quite lengthy, as we said, and the whole thing behind this is to not feel as though you need to process all of this information. It's a lot of information. What I love most about this Ideal Client Handbook, besides everything that's in quotes, is the efficiency of having a really powerful AI input. So the way in which I use this Ideal Client Handbook is I first download it into a plain TXT text file, and then I upload it into ChatGPT or Claude. So basically I'm training AI and saying, hey, AI, this is my ideal client on the deepest level. And so that way I'm really introducing AI to my ideal client and then working with it. So how some of you are saying, oh, I use AI to create content or copy or brainstorm ideas. Imagine priming it with this as an input if you're doing anything that is client facing or client related. Got it? So when I use AI to write copy for me, for example, I don't just want to say I serve entrepreneurs who want to leverage AI in their businesses and with their communities. I want to prime it with this depth of information and then have a conversation with it, and then like really tap into its intelligence and not just say, hey, this is who I serve. I've got a workshop coming up on this theme. Here's a sample, landing page copy, write copy like this. I want it to be way better than that. Right. And I think people more and more are seeing when something seems obviously AI written, AI generated. So that's why we use it. Sachin, you want to share something?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things I'll say for all of us here that are practitioners, the more input you have, so imagine having 29 pages of lab work versus, just a handful of markers, right? You would be way more informed and be able to produce a much better result and output for your client. So that's what this is, right? So if you're only using Amy's example, if you're only putting in a short little paragraph, then garbage in, garbage out. But if you're putting in this information and you're priming it with all of this knowledge and background, now it's taking all of that into account when it's producing the output for you. So it's just got so much more to work with. And this would be the equivalent of having more data points from your patients. You just have an unfair advantage now to create a much better output. So that's what I love about this. And what I'll say is that, to generate something like this took us about 6 months working with a copywriter individually, one-on-one on a bi-weekly basis, and cost us about $25,000. So, I mean, the fact that you can get it done in 10, maybe it takes you half an hour to come up with the inputs because you want to be really thoughtful, but they've even created the GPT to help you with that. This can save you so much time And now every time you're using chat, it's going to sound a lot more like you. And it's going to sound more mission driven and purpose driven because you've given it those inputs to work with. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Looks like
you make a really good point about not having enough to go on, because I think a lot of people are impressed with how efficient AI can be, and they're like, "Wow, it wrote a whole email," but it's not very good, because what ChatGPT is really good at is being creative, at coming up with things, at being able to tap dance with nothing. So when we don't give it enough information, it will make things up. If your bio is incomplete and you tell it to write something, it might say you went to Harvard. I've seen it do that to people before. And it's like, I wouldn't even want to go to Harvard. But it will start to, they call it hallucinating, when it starts to make up fake quotes and fake statistics. And so it starts to fill in the gaps with not just things that are bad, but things that are wrong. Like, you're actually like giving things that are like facts when it thinks you want it to write a story. So when you're able to actually prime it with intelligent information, it has the ability to take the information you've got and say, okay, I actually know what this person wants, because I know their pain points, which means I know their solution, which means I know the outcome they want. And now I can come up with topics and subtopics that are interesting and relevant and will resonate with them, and that they will find engaging. So that's where when we use this as our input, it isn't just about our voice. It's actually about what it is we're speaking into that keeps people paying attention.
Mm-hmm. And speaking in their language, not just focused on what we want to say, right? Of course, what we want to say is also important. But when we can really speak into what are they thinking about, then that is where your ideal clients will just gravitate towards you. Something that I always tell my clients is, let's get out of any kind of chasing energy when it comes to marketing what you do, and just become a stronger magnet. And the way that we become a stronger magnet is to speak your ideal client's language. Michelle, I see your hand up. Thank you for being patient. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah. So you guys already touched on it, some, you and Sachin both, but just to clarify, so what I'm hearing, because what I've done is I've done kind of bits and pieces before, where I say, kind of try to make a persona, try to add NLP, then say, what would be the top pain points? What would be this, et cetera. So I don't know how much overlaps, and this looks very comprehensive. So I'm just trying to put the mechanics together. This is the report. This is the research report. You upload the whole report is what I'm hearing as your prompt. Say, hey, this is the whole background. And from that, it will interpret and also be able to do the NLP, whatever it needs to sound like more authentic sound to you, and not be using elevate and unlock and unleash all over the place or whatnot. Is that correct?
Those words are so tricky to get rid of. They drive me crazy. And I've got a list that I could probably share with you guys if you're interested, but it's 50 words that it knows are just awful AI words. And I'm like, this is my blacklist. Never, ever use these words. The number one rule, if you use these words, I want you to rewrite it. Still, the very first thing, unleash the power of. And I'm like, did you not listen to a word I said? And the problem is that these models were trained on a lot of information on the internet, and a lot of the information on the internet is salesy, right? And so its most logical thing is to follow those sales scripts, especially if you tell it to make a landing page or marketing copy. It goes, oh, you want it to be persuasive. Persuasive language sounds like this. So you're actually kind of coaching it to go that way. And for whatever reason, those words are really difficult to get it to release from. So another GPT that I think we'll have time to share. Amy, can we do the writing sample at some point?
Yeah, in just a moment. Ken, do you mind if I share that blacklist with everyone? Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it. That'd be great.
Okay, so
and you can try to put this in there. And have you got it, Amy?
I just put it in the chat.
Cool. Yeah. So you can upload this. Fortunately, Claude, and we use Claude a lot. ChatGPT is great too. They both have different functions. But both those AIs, most of them now will let you upload files. So you can upload this file in there and say, don't use any of these words I have blacklisted. or count the number of words I have had that are blacklisted and change them. And we also have guidance in this blacklist about what we would want that to be changed to. But it does not take the guidance very well. And I've talked, one of the guys that I've done a lot in AI with is the founder of Entreport, and he has just lost his mind. He's like, I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on generating email, and we cannot break it from doing this. So you're not alone. Having it right marketing copy, I always encourage people, look it over and be sure that you're doing the editing yourself. It's going to make you a draft that's 90% there, but that edit is so important, and that'll also allow you to put your own stories in and the special nuances of how you talk, not just that you're an encouraging person and your tone is bright and happy and that your grammar is good. Those are all important to say, but some of the actual catchphrases you have are great to sprinkle in there as well.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, for that question. And then Ken, thank you for asking about the writing style GPT. We just want to hook you guys up today. So we do have this other GPT we're going to share with you. So I'm going to put this in the chat. So this one is so you can click on the link in the Zoom chat. And then all you need to do is you can do this right now if you'd like, okay? Go find some social media post or something you've written. Maybe it's an email, something that you've written that you're like, this is me, right? This is in my authentic voice. And then copy and paste it into this GPT and then press enter. And then the way we have this GPT designed, it'll reflect back to you your unique kind of thumbprint of your unique writing style.
I would even encourage you to try it with a transcript. If you've got a transcript of a Zoom call where you feel like you are really like in your space, in your energy, and you are speaking authentically and from your heart, get that writing style and turn that into your writing style instead of the one where you were picking your words carefully and you read it and it sounds like a marketing email. Do the thing that sounds like you, and then get this writing analysis. We have 7 different elements that it's going to give you 5 words for that will give you a block of information that you can load in and say, this is my voice. I want you to write as me.
Mm-hmm. Ken, Shauna's asking, would you copy and paste that list into ChatGPT?
I'd upload the file. Upload the file and say, here's the blacklist of words I don't want you to use, and see what you can do with it. I mean, it's great for having it check for these buzzwords that we don't want in there, and then give yourself a grade at how good you were at avoiding it, and then how would you make that a 10? That's a really powerful tool to ask it to give itself a grade on something. Like, what is the cringe factor? Cringe factor is a word that it really likes. What is the cringe factor of this email? And it'll say like 8 out of 10. And it's like, okay, now let's try and get it down to 0 if 0 is the best score, right? And it'll work on that with you. So asking it to rate itself on those sort of things, how engaging is this? How inspirational is it? Have it give you a number and then ask it what it would do to improve that score.
Yeah, I love that cringe factor because there are some cringy AI words, right? Super powerful. Okay, for if somebody wants to share if you're playing along at home, what response you got from the writing style, could you just copy and paste the response in the chat just so we can see what output you're getting? Just want to make sure that it's all working for you. Because once you have that, then you can use that as another AI primer. Mm-hmm. So whenever I have ChatGPT or Claude write copy for me, I also say to write it in this style. Yep, these are great.
Awesome. Yeah, that was our thinking at first, was we felt like completing the communication cycle by only doing our own voice, it was not passing through very well. So we wanted to lock it in with, we got our client, we have our voice, and then we solve for the message in the middle. And that made it work a lot better for us.
Okay, got some background noise there. Okay,
cool.
I saw Mohammed was asking, someone explain how to get the Ideal Client Handbook. Yes, so essentially when we were talking to Sachin, we said, what can we do to create something that will really support your community? And so we did put together a special bundle that includes the Ideal Client Handbook. This bundle is a done with you AI bundle. And so what we came up with was where you get access to your own Ideal Client Handbook account. that not only will you be able to get your own ideal client handbook done for you that's customized like we just demonstrated, it also comes with a quick start guide to walk you through how to download it into a text file and upload it into ChatGPT or Claude. But we also wanted to, as Sachin and I were talking about it, include another masterclass, even beyond today's masterclass. So that way we can help you to really leverage your ideal client handbook. So Sachin, we get to come together to decide on when we're going to do that. So we can come up with a date for that experience. And then we're also going to give you access to our custom GPTs. So we've, over the course of, I don't know, 5-6 months, Ken here has built our own custom GPTs that we use inside my business for copywriting, for products and offer creation, and just things that we all do as entrepreneurs on a daily or weekly basis to simplify it for you. And so as we come together, we can identify what will be most useful for the intimate group that comes together to do this. And we'll make sure that we hook you up with those GPTs. So I know Angelica on my team is here. If you could just pop the link in the chat for anyone who wants to grab that. And just know with the Ideal Client Handbook account, it does come with 3 additional credits, like we call them revision credits. So just know that even if you have an Ideal Client Handbook initially generated and you're like, oh, I want to do over, or I want to try it again because I have these 2 different types of clients that I work with, then just know it comes with 3 additional credits. You just go back into your account and redo the intake form, and then it'll generate a new Ideal Client Handbook for you. Got it? So you can grab that link. We do still have a little bit more time. I wanted to make sure to answer Mohammed's question, and then there's a couple of things we're going to demo for you. Ken, was there you had said something specific? Was it the writing style that you had me do? And then
yeah, I wanted to make sure they got the writing style prompt, because everybody likes knowing what their writing style is, and it's interesting feedback to get, but it's also super useful to put that in and say write as me, and to have it actually pull all that stuff out. So when we first started with ChatGPT, I spent some time working that backward as well, and said, if you were to try and identify Barack Obama's voice, what are the elements that you would need to identify clearly so that it always sounds like him? And so it gave me a list of those, and I did it a number of times, asked it a bunch of different ways until it came up with these specific things: the tone, the rhetorical devices, the vocabulary, or whatever it is. And so it had those seven elements. And so when we ask for those 7 elements out of the stuff you write, it will take the most useful inputs that it has identified as being able to really nail somebody's voice style, and it'll take those out of yours, and then you can do the same.
Mm-hmm. So the next time you leverage AI to write copy or content or any form of communication you want in your voice, go ahead and use this as an input to let it know that this is the style you want it to use. And I just have found that it is so much better than if you don't give them this information. Don't give them AI. These people.
And the other cool thing with making GPTs is it will take information that you upload as a knowledge base that it always works off of. So you could have a GPT that is always loaded with your ideal client and always with your writing style. And every time you use it, it will only work within those parameters, and you don't have to upload it every single conversation like you do without a GPT.
Mm-hmm. So one other thing, and we'll leave a little time for some questions at the end here, but one other thing I wanted to mention is as an entrepreneur and leveraging AI, one thing I've been really excited about has been to build our own custom GPTs that have our own templates and frameworks and processes in. So even, I know some of you probably are already doing this, but even as you think about, if you were to build your own custom GPT, either to use behind the scenes in your business or to share with your clients, what are some, I just would love you to think about this. What are some things that you'd be excited to have as your own custom GPT? So if you just want to put in the chat, whether it's, creating content, or it could be about, something that you consistently have as a repetitive thing that you offer your clients. Okay, can you just put in the chat some ideas that you have? Like if you're like, oh, if I create my own custom AI tool, I'd want it to be able to do this as an outcome.
Yeah, if they had an AI assistant, or if you had an AI assistant, what would you want to task them with?
Mm-hmm. Like one of the ones that I was playing with recently was because I love communication and storytelling. So if I could have AI as an assistant help my clients to bring out their best stories that they can use in their presentations, what would that GPT look like? Okay, cool. Yep, I'm seeing Sachin put website builder, lead magnet builder, social media posts, email series. Yep, emails in my own tone and style. Interpret lab information for patient social media. Yep. Yes. Amy says all the above. Yep. Great.
I always use it to cook.
I kind of like to use it to cook. It's fun. Yep. Yeah. So these are some of the things that you could think about how you would use it in your own business. Ken, I know we wanted to do, should we do the quick demo that we were talking about that we've used?
I would love to. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Okay. So let me just grab the copy for this. So we're just going to do a super quick demo.
This is something that I built with a friend of mine who is a health coach and does a lot of diet plans. I don't know if I know that some of you may be working with like people's digestion or different areas of health. It looks like there's a lot of functional medicine, but I wanted to share with you guys this quick GPT. This took me about 20 minutes to make. I've just got it as a prompt here, but we can turn it into a GPT that's going to help people come up with a diet plan, a recipe plan, a meal plan. And so have you got it handy there, Amy?
Yeah, so I just wanted to walk them through. So if you haven't yet created your own GPT, first thing that you need is a paid GPT account. So you do need to pay the $20 a month, right, to create your own custom GPTs. And especially if you're someone who's like, I'm not tech savvy, then definitely tune in right now because I'm telling you this is the easiest thing that you'll see today, okay? So you would click on Explore GPTs, okay? And then you'll see up here, My GPTs if you have some, and then Create. So I'm gonna click on Create. Ken's gonna actually walk us through this, okay? All right, Ken.
So there's two tabs here. If you just wanna have a chat with it on the side, it'll come up with a name for it, a logo for it, and you just tell it what you want conversationally. Like, I wanna come up with a signature program curriculum. And be like, great, what's it about? And you'll just tell it about that, like conversationally. And then what it'll do is it'll load your configure tab with a prompt that should deliver what it is you're talking about. So that instructions tab is where all of the brains, the default prompting is going to go. And then on the bottom, you can see where it says knowledge. You can upload your files, your frameworks, your sample outputs, your voice style, all the stuff that you wanted to always access. And you just put in your instructions, like always use my voice style. This framework down here is how I want my emails written, whatever it is. You use the instructions to kind of access those knowledge bases. You give it a name, describe it, and then you'll have your own version of ChatGPT that follows only your rules.
Mm-hmm. So when I was first learning how to do this, I was like, okay, got it. So there's two ways that I can create my own GPT that will be previewed over here as I'm building it. Create is kind of the easy tab. Configure is where you can take it to a whole new level. Okay. So Ken, I know you created these instructions. Should I just pop the instructions in here?
Yeah, pop the instructions in there.
Okay.
And let's call it meal plan as the name. Just to show where it pops up. And on the right, you'll be able to see her preview of what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
So we have meal plan. If we go into the create tab, we can still have it create a cool logo and it'll usually generate something pretty cool, but we're just gonna, do you wanna do that? Yeah, go ahead, say make a logo for a meal plan generator.
Yep, and then it'll be like working on it.
A second and be like, oh yeah, we'll use that.
Great.
Okay, that's perfect.
So now go back over here, Ken.
Yep, configure. And so I made some rules about making a recipe and coming up with a description of it and instructions for how to cook it. I'll give it the macros and it'll provide the nutrition facts. How many people are we cooking for? Have it make a shopping list. And so then we'll just go over there and say, what should I have for dinner? Oh, it'll also take into account dietary restrictions. So you can say I'm keto and dairy free, or I'm allergic, I'm gluten free, or I have whatever food allergy, I'm allergic to nuts. And so it'll think about all those things and then give you a recipe that fits your specific meal plan.
And Ken, what should I put in the description?
Just say creates meals. That's fine. Just to show where it shows up. You can say whatever. It will usually tell you what to do your input, but
okay.
That's
so
fine.
It's showing us the preview right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. What do you want us to do next, Ken?
Let's go ahead and try it out. We
Okay.
could have it put some sample questions to start, but we don't need to do that right now. So just say, I'd like to create a meal plan.
So now it's following his instructions to be able to share some details to create the specific meal plan tailored to your needs. So this could be something that you use for your clients, right, Ken?
Yep. So let's say caloric target, say 1800.
Oops.
Macro splits, let's say they're trying to put on muscle. Let's say 100 grams of protein. I mean, if they're keto, we'll have them do low carbs, so 20 grams carbs. Okay, and that's fine. It'll figure out the rest.
Okay.
Dietary restrictions, let's say keto and dairy free. Degree of difficulty. And we'll let it pick the cuisine. We could say Mexican or Thai, whatever. But let's go to the next one. Number of people. We're cooking for 2. And we only want to take 30 minutes to cook. And we'll just do 1 recipe for now. But you could have it map out a whole week for you and then have it do to those separately. All right, enter that. So it's got the health benefits.
It's making me
So
hungry.
you could make a whole recipe book from this. All right, cooking instructions. Nutrition facts. And let's see an image of it. Yes, show me an image of it. Now what's cool, yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
What's cool is you could do this for each of your clients if you had if you had profile information about them, you could have all of their dietary inputs in there. You could have whatever personal information that they can share for these outputs, and they could have this as a tool that follows your specific frameworks about. I've had to do workout plans for people. I don't know if you could do a physical therapy thing. There may be some HIPAA things about what you're actually able to do. But if you're trying to help somebody, if you have a routine to work on their shoulder or something, you could have a list of exercises for them to choose from and have it generate what they're supposed to do. It might be something where they could check in and say that they're finished or something, and have it be an accountability chatbot that walks them through.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, right?
Super cool, Ken. I'm seeing some great questions in the chat. So let's go into that.
Sure.
Okay, so Amy's asking, is that where we would upload our client handbook into where we get from you in the bundle?
Totally could. Yeah, you could have it so your GPT would be, so your ideal client would be a knowledge base within that. So if you have an email framework, you would put your writing style and your ideal client in there and say, all right, I'm going to create the email. And you might even have a couple different email templates. And when you tell it which one, it'll follow that framework with your writing style and the ideal client plugged in.
Mm-hmm. Sanjay is asking, can you restrict access to custom GPTs, as in restrict it to my clients only? It's a very common question.
That's complicated because we've tried to do that, and putting it into a closed system takes a few different steps because you actually need to pull it out of ChatGPT as what's called a GPT assistant. And you need to use APIs to like grab it from GPT and bring it back. So there are ways to do it, but it might end up needing a little bit of development. What you can do, what we typically do, is we have it so it's only available to people with a link. It doesn't have to go in the GPT store. It doesn't have to be searchable. But those people that have the link could share the link if it's on ChatGPT. If OpenAI is hosting it, then you can't put parameters around it yet. They don't have a system for that.
Mm-hmm. Janet's asking, would you keep this in that client's file only or have it in a library, for example?
Well, I mean, what I would do is I would have the client's profile and I would put it in there and I would make them a personal GPT that has their name, this person's guide, and then underneath what it does for them. And then you give them that file and they can even use it on the app. You can access GPTs on your app so that if they needed to figure out what to make for dinner, or if they needed to reference something that was in your database, if they had a question for you and you had all the information loaded up there, then they could ask the question of your GPT. You could have an FAQ that they can just ask questions to, and it'll give them that first. And you're like, if this doesn't answer your question, you could have some different alternatives, but you could put your phone number in there and say, call the office or make an appointment, send me an email you could have some alternative contacts if they run out, but give this to them as your first line of defense with an FAQ.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Sachin?
Yeah, thank you guys. This is awesome. One thing I wanted to share is that for people who are like in our mentorship programs, for example, who have their programs built out already, which has all their, so we have a program called the Metabolic Reset, for example. And with that comes an entire manual. It's like 180 pages. So we could upload that knowledge into a GPT, and then it could pull information from that. So it specifically says what foods to eat, what foods to avoid, what specific ingredients, what macros, meal portions, all that kind of stuff is already outlined in there. So from what I'm understanding, we'd just be able to upload that PDF of that guide, and it would then acquire all that knowledge, and then we'd be able to interact with it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and especially if it's well organized like that, I might actually break it into smaller chunks so it isn't having to read the whole thing every time. So then if it's looking for nutrition facts or macro splits, you might have that piece chunked out. So it's like, oh, the macro splits, I'm going to look here. Oh, for this, I'm going to look here. So if you have a large document, I might organize it a little bit, but I would certainly try it out with the full document first. It just might eat up its memory a little bit, and it could make the conversation a little bit chunky. But yeah, that's a great use case.
Okay, perfect. Can it read like, if we had a chart, like we've created a 8.5 by 11 chart that says eat this, not that, or here's a list of approved foods versus not approved foods, it'd be able to read that image, right?
It can. I would want to see the image to make sure that it's easy enough to read, but I've taken pictures of flowers and asked it what flower it is, and it knows, right? It has really good image to text comprehension right now. And so earlier today, there was a spreadsheet that I got on paper, and I wanted to import it to send a mass email. I took a picture of the spreadsheet and said, can you turn this into a table? I copied the table and pasted it into Google Sheets and then put it in my contacts. Cool, right?
What a time to be alive.
That's just it. And that's where we continue to be so blown away, and it continues to evolve every day. So it's very exciting. And the thing that we're such a stand for is we want to just continue to build community around us to really leverage AI in our businesses to gain speed and at the same time, quality. And something that Ken and I were even talking about today is that really for the first time, we can even scale customization, right? Like I've been able to help so many more people and still consider customization by leveraging AI. So it's a really powerful way to just stay in the loop and to be leveraging it, and creating your own GPTs is one way to do that. So I'm going to pop in this link one more time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see a comment here about incorporating speed. What's cool is it's already had the speed. What it's missing is getting it to be intelligent and good, right? So if we can actually be more mindful of what is going into it, then, I mean, the speed is taken care of. There's no problem with this thing being fast. It's just you don't want it to rush something out that isn't good enough because you're feeling lazy, right? Because, I mean, even my laziness isn't half as fast as its laziness, and it'll be better. But it's trying to figure out how to make that kind of efficiency and speed actually work for us so that it really is efficient and not just fast.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm seeing Amy's question is asking about how to maximize the Ideal Client Handbook. So in our, like, how are we going to kind of support you with that? So I'm going to just share a quick screen share on our list of custom GPTs, which this is specifically why we design these, is that once we started sharing like the Ideal Client Handbook with people, the number one question is, wow, this is so much information. What do I do with it? How do I leverage this in my business? So here's a list of our GPTs that we can go through and share during our masterclass when we do a training. So this is not to overwhelm you, it's just to think about what would be most useful. So I'll just share some of them here, like Super Copywriter. I use this all the time to create copy that's relevant and engaging for my ideal client. It really, when you use this GPT and you upload your Ideal Client Handbook into it, then it comes up with these multiple choice recommendations for topics and then subtopics and then ways in which to write copy that are relevant to your ideal client. And then you can also add your writing style that we shared with you, right? Your unique writing style, so that ultimately, once it has a draft, you can then have it written in your voice. So it's both relevant to your client and in your voice. We've also got the focus group facilitator. So imagine an AI simulated focus group of 3 of your ideal clients. So if you're creating a new workshop or an event or something, and you would love to, at any given time, tune into your ideal client and say, hey, I'm creating this really cool retreat I've got coming up. It's a health and wellness retreat, and it's going to have meditation and all these cool things. Would love to get your feedback on it. You can tell the AI simulated facilitator to ask these questions of 3 of your ideal clients. Again, this list goes on and on. Ken, were you going to say something?
Yeah, another cool thing about that focus group facilitator, we didn't talk about mentions. When you have GPTs, you can call them into conversations. So if it just generated some email from your super copywriter, you can bring the focus group in and say, hey, what do you guys think about this email I just wrote? And then they'll debate. They'll talk about it with each other.
Yeah, so it's fun to bring one of these GPTs into another, and especially when it's well, it's just well primed with your ideal client, then it's going to give you better insights and information. We also have a masterpiece sales framework. So this has my signature outline for when I make an offer on a workshop. Something that I get as feedback all the time is that, I don't make pitches the way that a lot of entrepreneurs make pitches and offers. I really like to focus on the client and think about how can I best support you. And so this walks you through that framework. So if you're someone who wants to take your presentations to the next level, then you're welcome to use this GPT in order to leverage that. The gap analysis, Ken, I know this is your favorite one. You want to share about that?
Yeah, real quick. I was talking about gaps a little bit earlier, and what this does is this will identify the specific gaps that your clients need, but then it will tell you how to address them, why we believe those gaps exist, what messaging is relevant to those, what are what do they call it? Targets, the triggers that relate to that you can be aware of. So it'll give you a bunch of these gaps, and you can keep listing more and use those for your copy.
Yeah, and sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, whenever I've leveraged these GPTs with my Ideal Client Handbook, I do get these surprises where I'm like, oh, I never would have thought about that with my ideal client. And now I can infuse that into my messaging, my marketing, my workshops, my webinars, my offers, and how I articulate my message to them.
Yeah, and what's interesting is sometimes we don't think about it because it's so obvious. And it's like, well, of course that. Like, yeah, but you never say it. Like, I haven't ever said that, but that's really obvious. And that's one of their biggest things.
Yeah, so I want to be mindful of time, but as you can see, we've got a number of these and we continue to build them. We even have one down here that is about, oh, did I have it down here? Oh, it's not showing up for something. Okay, custom GPT instruction generator. So this is where you can actually use our GPT to build your GPTs. So this is kind of Ken's magic that he's brought in. So if you're wanting to really bring these AI tools in and have it as simplified as possible, then one thing that you could do is use this GPT. It's very meta, right? A GPT to build GPTs, and Ken has just cracked the code on how to simplify the whole process. So when we come together for the masterclass, we'll connect with Sachin to see which ones of these would be most beneficial. we want to hook you up. We really want to support you in getting up to speed with AI or taking your AI experience to the next level and optimizing it. And once again, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible. So go ahead, you can grab that link that we popped in and that Angelica popped in, and then we'll figure out time to come together and then hook you up with our custom GPTs. And then hopefully that can also inspire you to think about, what can I create for my clients? What can I create behind the scenes for my business to make it easier, faster, to create improved client retention, give them a quick win at the beginning as part of their onboarding process, things like that.
Masterclass be sent once. Yeah, it's a part of the bundle. So we'll make sure that it will serve as many of you guys as possible, and we'll go over all these GPTs and show you how to make some for yourself.
Yeah, we'll coordinate a time with Sachin, and if it happens to be at a time that you can't make it, of course we'll record it, make sure you get access to it. And like we're buddies with Sachin at this point, so if we want to do a second one, like we just want to be really giving to this wonderful community that you've given us this chance to connect with. So we just want to make sure we support you and that you have what you need to start or continue to implement AI into your business. So I know we're going over a couple minutes here, Sachin. I want to be mindful of time here.
Well, thank you, both of you, for taking time out of your busy days. Thank you for putting these tools together. It was wonderful. I'd love to show you some love. So if you got your videos on, let's show some love to both Ken and Amy for sharing their time with us and this wonderful knowledge. I mean, it's quite amazing. So just so everyone's clear, we're going to, they've provided the link. It's, I think, a drop in the bucket in terms of running your business and operating it and getting all this valuable information. So what you'll get when you get the bundle is you'll get 3 credits to generate your ideal client blueprint. And then we will do a follow-up session. Will that be an hour, 2 hours? How long do you think it'll be?
I think we need more than an hour.
Yeah, probably
Okay.
90 minutes. 90 minutes, totally up to you, Captain. Yeah, we're happy to accommodate. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do a 90-minute session, and everyone who's purchased this and has created their ideal client workbook will be able to attend, and then we'll unlock these other GPTs that you've shared with us, and then teach us exactly how to use this in our business. And so what I tell people, there's a rule of thumb that I have, and it's really simple: how to buy whatever you want. Who wants to know how to buy whatever you want? Raise your hand. It's really simple. You make it worth more than what you paid for it. So the way I look at something like this is, if your time is worth $250, I'm lowballing you for a minute, but if your time is worth $250, if this saves you 2 hours over the course of your lifetime, but also produces a better output than you could on your own, then this is going to give you an unfair advantage in your business, right? One thing that Ken said that I think is really relevant is that sometimes we feel like we're behind, but then a new tool or resource like this comes out, and now you're actually ahead, right? So out of everyone that could have been here, there was about 50 of us that tuned in live, and now you have an unfair advantage over the thousands of practitioners that don't have this information. And this will streamline your operations. It'll make your life a lot easier, and it'll put you in a position to be a better communicator, connect more deeply with your clients. And, for the work that we do, this is like 1/20th of a new client, right? So make that investment in yourself. And I really feel like it's going to be a great ROI for each and every one of you. And you just get so much more confident, right? Like, a lot of us aren't copywriters. We're not marketers by training, and this will level the playing field for all of us to be better at what we do. And because what we have to offer really makes an impact on people's lives in such a positive way, we have an obligation to become better at what we do. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And I'd love to pass the floor back on to you, both of you, if you have any closing remarks. And yeah, we'll coordinate a time that maybe we'll maybe do some sort of survey to figure out, once we have a list of who's in, we'll survey everyone to figure out the time that works best. And then we'll give you exclusive access to that recording, so you have lifetime access to it as well. Great.
Thank you, Sachin. Again, that's a really, really powerful session with everyone here today. We've loved connecting with everyone. And I do see that I always want to answer one last question. I see Anita, if you have a question, if you can unmute yourself, we can answer your question before we wrap up. Oh, I see it right here. Thank you. What if I'm not a medical practitioner, but I'm targeting wellness and medical practitioners as my ideal target customer. Totally fine. We will support you in leveraging these tools to connect with your ideal client, and you'll still be able to use the GPTs. We've served people in different industries that are relationship based, right? So if you are building a relationship with your audience, if you care about how you create transformation for them, then this will work for you. I've seen this question a couple times about 3 credits. So when you get an Ideal Client Handbook account, you'll be able to fill in the intake form, the 3 questions, and then you'll get your Ideal Client Handbook, and then you'll have 3 more kind of do-over credits. So if you want to go back and you're like, I want to answer those intake forms, the intake form questions differently, then you can go back into your unique Ideal Client Handbook account, answer, what is my purpose? What's my desired transformation? What's the business type? So that if you want to either do a do-over or say that you have 2 different ideal clients, like ideal client avatars, if you will, then you have these additional credits either as a do-over or to serve a different client. So we want to make sure that you had more access to more than one generated report. Yep. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again. And Ken, thank you for joining me to lead this presentation alongside me. The more we've done this together, it's just really fun. Sachin, thank you. This has been such a fun collaboration. Your community, I can just feel their warm energy. And so I love standing alongside you and taking a stand for wellness and wellness practitioners and really making a positive difference in the world. So thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. Have a wonderful evening. Get a walk in before you go to bed tonight if the weather is nice, and even if it isn't, get outside. Lots of love. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day.
All right.
Bye
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you both.
All right.